Hello folks, welcome. The kiln fired last night, and we are now going to open the kiln and see the results. Kiln is cold now, and let's see what we got in there. So before we do that though, let's just quickly see the kiln log a minute, because we actually finished at 2274 on the pyro. Now usually with the same pyro but with the other kiln, 2295 or 23 or 2308 or something like that, considerably higher. And what I hadn't taken into consideration is that with this kiln, my other kiln, I had the pyro was there and the cone was situated about there, sort of a little bit lower but kind of close. Whereas in this kiln, let's open it. Let us open it. With this kiln, the pyro is here, and yet the cone is quite a bit further. It's over on the other side of the kiln, and it's just down just underneath there. So there was a little bit more of a discrepancy between the pyro. Now that's something you have to learn as you know, get to know your kiln. Anyway, you know, so at one point towards the end, I was really struggling to get that kiln up to get the temperature to rise and keep reduction at the same time. This is the thing. You've got to keep, on the one hand, reduction, keep that flowing, keep that flame there on the chimney, but at the same time you've got to see a temperature rise as well. You can't have one and not the other. So I decided to have another look at the cone, because the last time I looked at it, it was still bolt upright. And I looked at the cone and it was completely gone, disappeared. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I quickly shut off the kiln. And luckily it hadn't overfired. We just caught it in the nick of time. Anyway, let's just get some of these pots out. I was pleasantly surprised, I have to say, with the results, because I really thought we were going to get a much more severe kind of oxidization. Let's put the camera on a tripod and we'll just talk about these as we go. Let me just turn the overhead light on, see if we can get a bit extra light. So, yeah, there were about approximately 20 pots in this kiln, and the pots that I put in, I didn't want to put in pots that I was going to risk just in case I didn't know how they were going to come out like. So I put in, I've got a whole load of bisqued pots in my other pottery building. And I thought, well, I'll just glaze those and put those in, because if they go wrong, I'm not going to cry about it, if you know what I mean. So, any of these pots are for sale, by the way. The usual. If there's anything here that grabs you that you like, this came out actually pretty nice, really nice melt, and not really oxidized. It could have been reduced a little more. Looking at the clay body, it could have been a little bit darker, a little bit more reduced. But no, not bad, not bad. So there's that guy. I'll just put these around the edge here. La la la. See this? If you look at the clay body, if it's really nicely reduced, it goes a little bit darker. If it's oxidized, it's a little lighter. Yeah, if any of these that grab you, shoot me an email. No, that looks a little darker, possibly a little bit more reduced. These are just pestles and mortars that have had wood ash with my compressor and my spray gun just sprayed over, just to give it a sort of toastiness. Now, a lot of people, when they see these pestle and mortars, they think, oh, what's that? Oh, how cute, you know. These are functional pestle and mortars for grinding up cumin seeds, coriander seeds, the odd clove of garlic, whatever, you know. They're practical. This was a double bowl that I'd had knocking around for ages. I thought, well, I'll stick that in, and yeah, it's okay. Unfortunately, it's got a little crack there, so it's a second. These little honey pots came out quite nice. Ooh, a little decoration under the lid. Basically a cylinder, you see, with a rolled rim and then turned out, and a little gallery made in there for the lid. Just simple little jam pots, honey pots, mustard pots. Yeah, quite satisfactory. Let me just grab these and put them over here on the webboard. So I want to show you the results. Then I want to explain to you why the kiln had difficulty getting up to temperature, and how we're going to go about rectifying it. These mugs, there's a local potter here close to me, and he's another English guy, actually, would you believe? And he makes pots for people. He makes bisqueware for people. So I thought, I know, maybe he could make me some tankards, you know, save me having to slog away making tankards. So I gave him one of my tankards. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with my tankards, but and you know, I got him to make me 10 or so of these just to see if I liked them. I didn't like them, I have to say. So we didn't have any more of them done. He kind of finishes his things off a little bit different. But I glazed them, and I just, with iron oxide, just put my initial there. I mean, you know, they're perfectly serviceable as mugs. They're not quite my style, but a little thick on the lip here, really. Mind you, having it a little thick there might mean it keeps the shape a bit better, I suppose. But yeah, I've got some more of those down below in the firing. Let's get the shelf out. Let's get that this double bowl over there. Yeah, as you see, there's not a lot of pots you can put in here. It's a small kiln, and I didn't have any pots that were really height-wise that were suitable. You know, I just had to use what I had. Whip that shelf out, put in there. Let's take the camera off the tripod a sec and delve down and then have a look, see what we got. So I was able to get some down there, you see, right on the floor, on both sides. Probably could have got another one down there. Let's just get these guys out. So now some of these mugs, oh, I did some brushwork, just did iron oxide straight on the bisque. But this here, you'll notice on the handle, not really come out that nice blue. You see that's the blue that it should have been on the handle here. I had a batch of pigment that I had on a tile, and it had been there for a while. I added water to it, etc., and it sort of some of the cobalt must have got washed away, and it's come out a bit kind of grey looking. Anyway, a little bud vase. Now I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at the bases, and I'm seeing a slight yellowy, can you see that? Slightly yellowish look there. That's classic oxidization. And you might notice that the white can take on a slight yellowish hue. But not bad, I mean, you know, perfectly acceptable. This is a little oxidized. Now maybe some of you who don't really understand about reduction and always do oxidization, you're probably thinking, well, what's the fuss he making about all this? What's wrong with them, you know? Well, you can get a sort of effect where pots look a bit stark. They look a bit stark. They don't have a certain kind of depth of richness that you will get with reduction firing. That's why we do reduction firing. Yeah, this is a little oxidized here, I can tell. But you know, I mean, not terrible. Now this one's a little bit more reduced, I can tell by the colour of the clay body. Somebody might like these. Any of these grab you, give me a shout. We'll sell these off cheap. Cheaper than my stuff, my usual stuff, if you know what I mean. He can throw. Ian, he's called. I had a couple of these little guys, which had been on the shelf up over yonder, and they'd had wood ash sprayed over them. But I hadn't. The thing about wood ash is, you see, if it's not freshly put on, you know, things happen. You know, spiders crawl around, mice, what have you. You know, and you see that it's sort of, it disturbs the wood ash or leaves a mark. You know, and then that shows in the firing. I don't know if you can see this one as well. Here, it's sort of, you know, it's not terrible, but. Couple more of these little guys down here. So I was really expecting it to be, now I don't know if you can see, looking at these, what I said to you about starkness, a little stark looking. I don't know if you can understand that. And if you look here carefully, you'll see the bottom part is a little yellowy, whereas the top part here, the milky glaze, is a little bit more bluey. And that is where it's more reduced, and where it's a little bit more yellowy. And you'll notice the clay body on the bottom is a little bit more yellow. That is, here's one. This one is more noticeable. You can see how yellowy that is. It's not really a technical fault. And you know, if I didn't say, it's just that it's not what we're aiming at. You know, and so. But you know, it's somebody. Then you know, you put all these pots up for sale. Somebody will come in. I bet you the first ones they pick are the oxidized ones. I see. So okay, let's just put these over here. Shelf. Yeah. So I was actually really encouraged, and. I mean, I knew what was wrong. What's wrong with the kiln? You see, why it was behaving the way it was. I know why. It's not that difficult to figure out. So let's put these over here. So that's those guys. Quick spin the camera over there so you can see them. So those are on those two wear boards, that was the contents of the kiln. Let's just have a look at the cone a minute. Let's have a look at the cone. So the cone, is starting to fall apart, the clay that hold it together. You can see the cone was sat on a still, and that was the cone. So, you know, he went over, but he's not really, I wouldn't say he's really, the kiln is not really overfired. So, righty ho. So what are we going to do in order to make a correction to the flame aerodynamics within this kiln so that it is not so constricted? Well, I don't think the problem lies here in the burner port. You can see I pulled back the burner some considerable distance to allow more air to go in, you see, because we basically, that was the problem. We were being starved of air, and I needed to let more oxygen into the kiln to try to get the temperature to go up. But the trouble is, if you do that, then you starve off the reduction. So it's a sort of double-edged sword. But really, what I'm going to do with this kiln here, I can just leave the camera like that here. So this slot here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this line here, this horizontal line. I'm going to raise it up a bit. In other words, enlarge this slot, make it a bit bigger here, a little bit higher here, and that'll go a long ways to bettering the flow of gases. I may even, right in the back, along the back side there, where the back bit, where it joins there, I may put a little 45 degree, a small 45 degree deflector brick to facilitate as the gases come in here, that they're then encouraged to come up, you see. I mean, they come up anyway, but so the actual slot that I've got here, you see, because my chimney slot that is here, that I cut in the lid, it kind of, there's a little bit of this triangular bit here in the corner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this here so it's triangular like this, so it meets this here. In other words, because some of the flow of gases coming up here is hitting here on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little, pull this back, and open it out a little bit here and here. And that, just doing those two things, opening it out down there a little bit and opening out that there at the top, I think it certainly will improve it. So other comments to make. The kiln cement that I used to put in here seems to have done quite a good job. It hasn't cracked or fallen out or run out or melted. It seems to have done its job quite well, so that's quite good. That was basically a mixture of crushed brick dust and some, what else, some china clay, some fire clay, and some talc, and then some sodium silicate to mix it all together. Here you can see on the top here, it's pulled away just a little bit there, but I'm not saying it can't be improved, but I'm just saying it's worked reasonably well. The other thing about the kiln, the firing, you recall, was that we seem to have a bit of a gap going around the edge here where the lid met. There seemed to be, now somebody did write to me, thank you whoever you are, you'll remember, and they said, well, what you should have you tightened the strap here too tight, and you should have relaxed these off a bit. You see, you can just turn them, and I think I had it too tight because of course the kiln lid will expand under heat and it can sort of slightly buckle. I think that's what we were experiencing. Now somebody else, I think he was called Global Warmer Guy, I think it was his name, he suggested using some of this. This is for fireplace, you know, and I thought, well, yeah, that actually might work. I mean, it's not really going to withstand the hot face of the kiln, but let's just put the camera on the tripod a minute. Let's just put that there. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be an experiment. Now, he did actually talk about it. There's the different kinds of this material that you can get. Some of it is flatter in cross section. This is a little bit rounder, but I thought being a little bit more round, it can squish down easily, you see. And this is 6 feet, and if I put this around like this, it exactly fits, you see. Apart from the fact that this will actually stretch, you see. So that's actually, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put this up tight here close to the, I'm going to pull it back further back here, right to the edge, and I'm going to locate that in position. There's two ways of doing it. One is to fix it in position permanently with cement, and I did buy some of this stuff. It's only rated up to 2000 degrees, but if it's only going to go around just around the edge here, the edge that's furthest away from the hot face here, that might actually work. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, but you're going to have that there. This is going to get knocked here. This is going to get, from day to day, you know, packing, unloading the kiln, this is going to get, it's going to be a nuisance if it's a permanent thing there, I think. The other alternative is then we'll mount it on the lid. Well, if you mount it on the lid, you've then got to face the force of gravity, because it'll have a tendency to want to fall off the lid, unless it's really properly stapled. Well, I don't have any staples, so again, you know, I'm just trying to use what I've got. So what I thought I'd do is I'm just going to use it like this, and I'm just going to take it off like that, and when I'm ready to fire each time, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to lay it on here like this, put it all around, and then close the lid and make sure that it's just, you know, in position. And then we will shut the lid down, and I'll just make sure it's, as I said, back from the hot face. Sort of position more or less like how you see it there, something like that. So then when the lid shuts, that will take up the space, and this will flatten down where it needs to, and where there's more space, it's got sort of springiness to its form, and so it'll make up the. Now we may find that it completely burns out and melts. So you know, you have to try these things, don't you? The alternative is that we use, and I've got plenty of ceramic fibre that I could use, like this. Like I put some on the top here, and then, you know, and half of it sticks up here. That you see. So and this is more, a little bit more fragile, but I mean, in it, that can work. I use it over there on that kiln along the top there. I'm all the time. It tends to break up more easily and get into the atmosphere, get into the air, and if you have to be careful you don't breathe it in. So anyway, think that's about it, folks, just for now. My next video is going to be, well, I don't know if I'll actually make a video of it, because I've told you what I'm going to do. I'm going to include, open up the slot underneath and open up the slot up here in the lid. Those two things. And I'll show them to you, and then we'll have another pack of the kiln. Altogether though, I was actually really, I was pleasantly surprised. The results came out better than I really thought they would. I was thinking that we were going to be very oxidized, but you know what I did do? What I did, I'll just show you this. It might make you laugh. Hang on, put that back there. Was that spanner? Yeah. So what I did was, in order to get more, to let out the reduction that was going on inside the kiln, and to get temperature increase, what I did was I took out this, the spy hole brick. That was one thing I did. And the other thing I did was I raised the lid. I've got that bit of stuff in there now. I'm just looking at it. That seems to be working quite well, actually. But what I did was I kept lifting the lid when we were up at, you know, I just kept lifting it a little bit like that, and I had this thing propped in there like that, so it made more of a gap around here. Remember all that that stuff you saw me, I told you I was going to poke in to fill up that hole? Well, I removed all that. In fact, I opened up the kiln to let out that reduction a bit more, and I got some temperature rise by doing that a bit better. And I kept on, you know, it was literally, I had to fight for every degree of rise in temperature, and I'd get it, you know, it would go up 1 or 2 or 3 degrees up, and then, you know, and then I would have to give it some reduction, you know, because I didn't want it just being oxidization, just going up. I had to give reduction with it as I went. Oh, I know, I'm waffling, aren't I? He's waffling, he's off again. He's yakking away there. I know. Anyway, the long and short of it, you can see the mark where that was resting like that, to just prop it open, just that little, just the thickness of that, just to give it a little bit more, and that would make it go oxidized, and that would give it temperature rise. But then I'd have to give it flame, and then you'd see the temperature go back. So I'd go, you know, I'd go like 3 degrees up and then 2 degrees back, and so on and so forth. It's all fun and games. You can tell I'm excited, can't you? Well, why not? Why shouldn't we be excited? It was a good firing, thank God. Yes, and yeah, the burner set up down here, it was a little bit, but you know what? I didn't want to have anything too fixed, because I was having to play around with this burner, bringing it backwards and forwards. You see, because in order to get more air in, you know, to pull this back, and until you know exactly how it's all going to be, well, it's a new kiln, you see, you don't know, do you? It's all a new experience. So we just, as my friend Seth Cardew would say, we are flying by the seat of our pants. Hey folks, great to be with you, thanks. We've got a workshop this weekend, just a couple of people on it. We're a little bit short of people on this workshop, but if anybody fancies just coming and joining the workshop, come and do so. Other than that, yeah, if any of those pots grabbed you, or you really like them, just write to me, and then what I would like is if you could mail me a check, and I'll tell you how much is the total with the shipping. Okay? And also one other thing, I am having another batch of Leach treadle wheels made. So if you fancy, I've got 2 takers